Lily loved sunshine. Not just any sunshine, but the kind that turned the park's green grass into a shimmering emerald carpet. She loved drawing even more. Her crayons, a rainbow explosion in a cardboard box, were her most prized possessions. Today, at 6 years old, Lily skipped ahead of her mom near the familiar swings, her bright yellow raincoat a beacon against the slightly overcast sky. "Mommy, can I draw the big tree again?" she asked, pointing to the ancient oak that dominated the park's center. Her mom smiled. "Of course, sweetie. Just stay where I can see you." Lily nodded, already lost in her world. She found her favorite spot beneath the oak, spreading out her drawing pad. Today's masterpiece was going to be special. It wouldn't just be the tree, it would be the tree with a star growing out of its branches, a star unlike any other. It had 6 points, each ending in a tiny swirl. It was a magical star, she decided, a star that granted wishes. An hour later, Lily's mom looked up from her book. Lily was gone. Panic tightened her chest. "Lily," she called, her voice laced with growing fear. Only the rustling leaves answered. She searched behind the tree, around the swings, her calls becoming more frantic. Other parents joined the search, their cheerful chatter replaced by worried whispers. The police arrived quickly. Uniformed officers spread out, their serious faces a stark contrast to the colorful playground. A K-9 unit sniffed Lily's drawing pad, the dogs pulling at their leashes, their barks echoing through the park. The afternoon sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows. Lily was still missing. The park, once a place of joy and laughter, was now filled with dread and unanswered questions. A little girl, who loved drawing magical stars, had vanished without a trace. Her last drawing, clutched by a detective, became a silent plea for her safe return, a symbol of hope against a growing tide of despair. The unusual 6-pointed star, with its swirling tips, would soon become the key, though no one knew it yet, to unlocking the mystery of Lily's disappearance. The park transformed into a command center. Floodlights illuminated the trees, casting eerie shadows that danced with the frantic movements of search teams. The initial hope that Lily had simply wandered off quickly faded as hours passed without a trace. More police arrived, along with firefighters and volunteers from the community, their faces etched with worry. They formed search parties, systematically combing through the park's dense woods and surrounding streets, calling Lily's name until their voices were hoarse. Lily's parents, Sarah and Tom, were beside themselves. Sarah, normally a picture of calm, paced back and forth, her eyes red and swollen. Tom stood silently, his hand gripping Sarah's, his face a mask of disbelief and terror. Every rustle of leaves, every distant siren, sent a jolt of fear through them. The police tried to comfort them, but their words offered little solace. The local news stations broadcasted Lily's picture, her smiling face and bright eyes beaming from television screens across the city. Her yellow raincoat became a symbol of innocence lost, a plea for anyone with information to come forward. The news anchors spoke in hushed tones, their voices conveying the gravity of the situation. The search expanded beyond the park. Teams of volunteers plastered "missing" posters throughout the neighborhood, on telephone poles, store windows, and community bulletin boards. Lily's picture was everywhere, a constant reminder of the little girl who had vanished. People organized candlelight vigils, gathering in the park to pray for Lily's safe return. The community rallied together, united by a shared sense of grief and determination. The police interviewed everyone who had been in the park that day, from other parents to dog walkers to teenagers playing basketball. They followed up on every lead, no matter how small, but each one led to a dead end. The investigation was a race against time, and with each passing hour, the chances of finding Lily alive diminished. The initial hope began to wane, replaced by a gnawing fear that Lily had been taken far away, perhaps never to be seen again. The vibrant park, once a haven of joy, was now a somber reminder of a community's worst nightmare. Detective Harding, a seasoned investigator with 20 years on the force, took charge of the case. He was a methodical man, known for his unwavering determination. Harding understood that the first 48 hours were critical in a missing child case, and he pushed his team relentlessly. They revisited the park multiple times, meticulously searching for any sign of Lily, any clue that might explain her disappearance. Harding focused on Lily's home life. He interviewed her parents extensively, searching for any indication of trouble or instability. Sarah and Tom were heartbroken, but their love for Lily was evident. There were no signs of abuse or neglect. Their home was filled with Lily's drawings, her toys, and the warmth of a loving family. The detective paid particular attention to Lily's last drawing. The six-pointed star with swirling tips was unusual, unlike anything he had ever seen. He showed it to art experts and child psychologists, hoping they could shed some light on its significance. Some suggested it might be a symbol from a children's book, others thought it could be a representation of Lily's imagination. But no one could definitively identify the symbol. Harding ordered a thorough search of the family's computer and electronic devices, looking for any connections to the symbol or any online activity that might be relevant. The search turned up nothing. The symbol remained a mystery, a tantalizing clue that offered no clear direction. The police explored every possible scenario. Had Lily wandered off and gotten lost? Had she been abducted? Had she been taken by a family member? They investigated every angle, leaving no stone unturned. They checked the backgrounds of all registered sex offenders in the area, but none of them were linked to Lily. As days turned into weeks, the investigation grew increasingly complex. The police received hundreds of tips, each one requiring careful investigation. They followed up on every lead, no matter how improbable, but each one led to disappointment. The case was becoming a puzzle with missing pieces, a frustrating enigma that defied easy solutions. Detective Harding refused to give up, but he knew that time was running out. The unusual star remained his only solid lead, a silent promise to bring Lily home. Months drifted by, each one heavier than the last. The intense media coverage surrounding Lily's disappearance gradually faded, replaced by other news stories, other tragedies. The missing posters, once vibrant and new, became faded and torn, clinging precariously to lampposts. The park, though still frequented by families, carried a lingering sense of sadness, a quiet reminder of the little girl who was no longer there. The police investigation, despite Harding's unwavering efforts, slowed to a crawl. The leads had dried up, the tips had stopped coming in. The case was officially classified as cold, a term that sent a shiver down Harding's spine. He hated the term. It meant that the active search had ended, that the resources had been diverted to other cases. But he refused to let it mean that Lily was forgotten. Sarah and Tom struggled to cope with their loss. The emptiness in their home was palpable, a constant reminder of Lily's absence. They went through the motions of daily life, but their hearts were broken. They attended support group meetings for parents of missing children, finding solace in the shared pain and uncertainty. They clung to the hope that Lily was still alive, somewhere, somehow. Detective Harding continued to work on the case in his spare time, poring over the files, revisiting the evidence, searching for something he might have missed. He kept Lily's drawing on his desk, a silent plea for inspiration. He felt a personal responsibility to bring Lily home, a promise he had made to her parents. The community, though still supportive, began to move on. Life had to go on, but the memory of Lily remained, a poignant reminder of the fragility of innocence. The case became a local legend, a cautionary tale whispered among parents. The unique star symbol, once a symbol of Lily's imagination, became a symbol of loss and unanswered questions. It seemed as though Lily's disappearance would remain a mystery forever, a cold case destined to gather dust in the archives. But hundreds of miles away, a chance encounter was about to reignite the investigation and bring hope back to a grieving community. Sarah, Lily's mother, needed a change. The constant reminders of Lily in their hometown were suffocating. Tom encouraged her to take a trip, to get away and clear her head. After much hesitation, Sarah booked a flight to Oakhaven, a city known for its vibrant art scene and bustling street markets. She hoped that immersing herself in a new environment would offer some respite from her grief. Oakhaven was a world away from the quiet suburb she called home. The streets were alive with music, the air thick with the aroma of street food, and the buildings adorned with colorful murals. Sarah wandered aimlessly, taking in the sights and sounds, trying to lose herself in the energy of the city. She found herself drawn to a particular street corner, where a crowd had gathered to watch a street artist at work. The artist, a young man with long hair and paint-splattered clothes, was creating a stunning mural on a brick wall. His name was Marco, and he was known throughout Oakhaven for his incredible talent. Sarah watched, mesmerized, as Marco transformed the blank wall into a vibrant landscape, using spray paint and stencils with remarkable skill. His art was bold and expressive, filled with intricate details and hidden meanings. She felt a sense of peace watching him work, a temporary escape from the pain that had consumed her life. She spent hours observing Marco, captivated by his artistry and his passion. He seemed to pour his heart and soul into his work, creating pieces that resonated with the soul. She even bought a small painting from him, a colorful abstract piece that reminded her of Lily's drawings. Little did Sarah know that this chance encounter, this moment of artistic appreciation, was about to unravel the mystery of Lily's disappearance and bring her one step closer to finding her daughter. The vibrant city of Oakhaven held a secret, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. And Sarah, in her search for solace, was about to stumble upon the key. Marco was a whirlwind of energy when he worked. He moved with a dancer's grace, his hands a blur as he wielded his spray cans. He wasn't just painting, he was telling stories, weaving narratives with color and form. His murals were more than just decorations, they were reflections of the city's soul, its hopes, its dreams, and its hidden secrets. He often worked shirtless, especially on warm days, his tan skin glistening with sweat. He had several tattoos, swirling patterns and abstract designs that seemed to echo the energy of his art. Sarah had noticed them before, admiring their intricate details. They seemed to be a part of him, an extension of his artistic expression. One afternoon, as Marco was putting the finishing touches on a new mural, he stretched his arm to reach a high corner of the wall. His t-shirt sleeve slid up, revealing a new tattoo on his inner forearm. It was small, almost hidden among the other designs, but something about it caught Sarah's eye. It was a star. Not just any star, but a six-pointed star with swirling tips. The exact star from Lily's drawing. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. A wave of dizziness washed over her. She blinked, trying to clear her vision, wondering if she was imagining things. Could it be possible? Could this be the connection she had been desperately searching for? She tried to rationalize it. Stars were a common symbol. It could be a coincidence. But deep down, she knew. The shape, the details, the swirling tips, it was exactly the same star that Lily had drawn on that fateful day in the park. A cold dread washed over her. The vibrant city, the beautiful art, the sense of peace she had found, it all vanished in an instant, replaced by a chilling realization. The man she had been admiring, the artist who had brought her a moment of solace, might be connected to her daughter's disappearance. She felt a desperate need to flee, to escape the city and the terrifying truth she had just uncovered. But she knew she couldn't. She had to do something. She had to find out the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Lily's life might depend on it. Sarah's mind raced. She needed proof. She couldn't just accuse someone based on a tattoo, no matter how similar it was to Lily's drawing. She needed to confirm her suspicions, to have something concrete to show the police. She discreetly pulled out her phone, trying to act casual, as if she were simply taking a picture of the mural. She zoomed in on Marco's arm, her hands shaking slightly. She snapped a photo, capturing the tattoo in as much detail as possible. The flash from her phone caught Marco's attention. He glanced at her, a curious expression on his face. Sarah quickly averted her gaze, pretending to be engrossed in the mural. She felt a blush creeping up her neck. "Do you like it?" Marco asked, his voice surprisingly gentle. Sarah hesitated, unsure of what to say. "Yes," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "It's amazing." "Thank you," Marco said, a smile spreading across his face. "It's inspired by the city, by the people, by the stories that surround us." Sarah nodded, unable to meet his eyes. She felt a strange mix of guilt and fear. Was she wrong about him? Was she letting her grief cloud her judgment? "Are you an artist?" Marco asked, sensing her interest. "No," Sarah said, shaking her head. "I'm just a tourist." "Oakhaven is a good place to be a tourist," Marco said, chuckling. "There's always something new to discover." Sarah forced a smile, but her mind was elsewhere. She was already planning her next move. She needed to get the photo to Detective Harding, to see if he thought the tattoo was significant. She needed to know if she was crazy, or if she had finally found the clue that would bring Lily home. She made an excuse to leave, thanking Marco for his art and promising to return. As she walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She clutched her phone tightly, the photo of the tattoo a precious piece of evidence, a fragile thread of hope in a sea of despair. The vibrant streets of Oakhaven suddenly felt menacing, the colorful murals hiding dark secrets. Sarah knew she was on the verge of something big, something that could change everything. But she also knew that she was walking a dangerous path. Back in her hotel room, Sarah's hands trembled as she looked at the photo on her phone. The image was clear, the details of the tattoo unmistakable. It was the star. Lily's star. She felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Relief that she might have finally found a lead, fear of what that lead might reveal, and a desperate hope that Lily was still alive. She replayed the events of the day in her mind, searching for any other clues, any other connections. She remembered Marco's words, "It's inspired by the city, by the people, by the stories that surround us." What stories? What secrets was he hiding? She opened her laptop and searched for information about Marco online. She found articles about his art, interviews with local newspapers, and photos of his murals. He was a well-respected artist in Oakhaven, admired for his talent and his community involvement. There was nothing in his online profile that suggested he was capable of harming a child. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The tattoo was too much of a coincidence. She found Detective Harding's phone number and hesitated before dialing. She didn't want to raise false hopes, but she knew she couldn't keep this to herself. She took a deep breath and pressed the call button. Harding answered on the third ring. "Detective Harding speaking." "Detective," Sarah said, her voice shaky. "It's Sarah Miller, Lily's mother." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Sarah," Harding said, his voice filled with concern. "Is everything all right?" I think I found something," Sarah said, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'm in Oakhaven, and I saw a street artist with a tattoo. It's the same star that Lily drew." Harding was silent for a moment. "The six-pointed star with the swirling tips?" "Yes," Sarah said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Exactly. Can you send me a picture?" Harding asked, his voice suddenly alert. "I already did," Sarah said. "I emailed it to you a few minutes ago." "I'll take a look," Harding said. "Stay where you are, Sarah. I'll call you back as soon as I can." Sarah hung up the phone, her body trembling with anticipation. She looked at Lily's drawing, which she had brought with her on the trip, and whispered, "I'm coming for you, sweetheart. I promise." The waiting was excruciating, each second stretching into an eternity. The hope that had been dormant for so long began to flicker again, fueled by the image of the star on Marco's arm. Detective Harding stared at the photo on his computer screen, his brow furrowed in concentration. He zoomed in on the tattoo, comparing it to the image of Lily's drawing in the case file. The resemblance was uncanny. The 6 points, the swirling tips, it was an exact match. He felt a jolt of adrenaline. Could this be it? Could this be the break they had been waiting for? After all these months, could they finally be on the verge of finding Lily? He printed out the photo and showed it to his team. They were equally stunned by the similarity. They had all seen Lily's drawing countless times, and the tattoo was instantly recognizable. "Run a background check on this guy," Harding said, pointing to the photo of Marco. "Find out everything you can about him. Where he lives, who he associates with, any criminal record." He called Sarah back, his voice filled with cautious optimism. "Sarah, we've looked at the photo. The tattoo is definitely significant. We're going to investigate this man, Marco. I need you to stay in Oakhaven and keep me updated on anything you see or hear." "I will," Sarah said, her voice trembling with excitement. "What should I do?" "Just be careful," Harding said. "Don't approach him, don't let him know you're suspicious. Just observe and report. We don't want to do anything that might jeopardize the investigation." Harding immediately contacted the Oakhaven Police Department, requesting their assistance. He explained the situation and sent them the photo of Marco and the drawing of the star. The Oakhaven police officers were skeptical at first, but they agreed to look into it. They assigned a detective, Detective Reynolds, to work with Harding on the case. Reynolds was a seasoned investigator, just like Harding. He was cautious and methodical, but he also had a gut feeling about this case. He knew that sometimes the most improbable leads could be the most promising. He and Harding spoke on the phone for hours, discussing the details of the case, strategizing their next moves. They agreed that the first step was to locate Marco and conduct surveillance, to observe his behavior and try to gather evidence. They needed to proceed carefully, to avoid alerting Marco and potentially putting Lily in danger. The hunt was on, a transcontinental collaboration fueled by a mother's hope and two detectives' determination. Detective Reynolds located Marco quickly. He was living in a small apartment above a bakery in the city's arts district. The Oakhaven police set up surveillance, watching Marco's every move. They observed him working on his murals, interacting with other artists, and going about his daily routine. He seemed like an ordinary young man, but they knew that appearances could be deceiving. Sarah, following Harding's instructions, returned to the street corner where Marco had been working. She pretended to admire the mural, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. She saw him arrive later that afternoon, carrying a backpack filled with spray paint cans. He greeted her with a friendly nod, but she avoided eye contact, afraid of giving herself away. She noticed that he seemed more subdued than before, less energetic. He worked in silence, his brow furrowed in concentration. She wondered if he sensed that he was being watched. As the days passed, the police gathered more information about Marco. They discovered that he had a clean criminal record, but he had a troubled past. He had grown up in foster care and had spent time in a juvenile detention center for petty theft. He had turned his life around through art, finding a positive outlet for his emotions. They also learned that he had a fascination with symbols, often incorporating them into his murals. He studied different cultures and religions, drawing inspiration from their art and mythology. But they found no connection between him and Lily's hometown, no reason for him to have known about the star symbol. The surveillance continued, but the police found nothing incriminating. Marco seemed to be living a normal life, working on his art and interacting with his friends. They were starting to wonder if Sarah had been mistaken, if the tattoo was just a coincidence. Detective Harding refused to give up. He knew that they had to keep digging, that there had to be a connection somewhere. He asked Sarah to try to engage Marco in conversation, to see if she could learn anything about his past, his interests, or his travels. It was a risky move, but they were running out of options. Sarah, driven by her unwavering determination to find Lily, agreed to do whatever it took. She knew that she was walking a tightrope, but she was willing to risk everything for her daughter. Summoning her courage, Sarah approached Marco the next day. He was working on a new section of the mural, adding vibrant colors to a cityscape. She took a deep breath and spoke. "Your art is really beautiful," she said, trying to sound casual. Marco looked up, a hint of surprise on his face. "Thank you," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I appreciate that." "I was wondering," Sarah continued, "where do you get your ideas from? Your symbols are so interesting." Marco smiled. "Everywhere," he said. "From books, from dreams, from the world around me. Symbols are powerful things. They can tell stories, convey emotions, connect people. Do you ever use symbols that you've seen before?" Sarah asked, trying to steer the conversation towards the star. Marco paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Sometimes," he said. "If they resonate with me." "Why do you ask?" Sarah hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. "I just thought I recognized one of your symbols," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "A star, with swirling tips." Marco's expression changed. He became guarded, his eyes scanning Sarah's face. "I use a lot of stars in my work," he said, his voice flat. "This one was different," Sarah said, pressing on. "It had 6 points, and each point ended in a swirl." Marco didn't respond. He simply stared at her, his silence unnerving. Sarah felt a wave of fear wash over her. She had gone too far. She had revealed too much. She knew that she had to back off, to end the conversation before she jeopardized the investigation. "I'm sorry," she said, forcing a smile. "I must be mistaken. Your art is amazing. I should let you get back to work." She turned to leave, but Marco stopped her. "Wait," he said, his voice low. "How do you know about that star?" Sarah froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She had been caught. There was no turning back now. She had to tell him the truth, or at least part of it. "It was a drawing," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "My daughter drew it. She's missing." Marco's eyes widened. He looked at Sarah with a mixture of shock and confusion. "Missing?" he said. I don't understand." Sarah knew that she had to be careful, that her next words could determine Lily's fate. She had to convince Marco that she was just a grieving mother, searching for answers, not a detective trying to trap him. The stakes were higher than ever, and Lily's life hung in the balance. "I don't know why I have that tattoo," Marco said, his voice shaking slightly. I saw it somewhere, and it stuck with me. I didn't know it had any significance." Sarah studied his face, trying to discern if he was telling the truth. His eyes seemed sincere, but she couldn't be sure. "Where did you see it?" she asked. Marco hesitated. "I don't remember," he said. "It was a long time ago. Maybe in a book, maybe in a dream. I don't know." Sarah knew that she was pushing him too hard, but she couldn't stop herself. "Please," she said, her voice pleading. "If you know anything, anything at all, you have to tell me. My daughter's life may depend on it." Marco looked at her, his eyes filled with confusion and fear. "I don't know anything," he said. "I swear. I would never hurt a child." Sarah wanted to believe him, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. "Can I see your apartment?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Maybe there's something there that will jog your memory." Marco recoiled, his eyes widening in alarm. "No," he said. "I can't. It's a mess. I don't have time." Sarah knew that she had reached a dead end. She had pushed Marco as far as she could, and she had gotten nowhere. She had to back off, to let the police take over. "I understand," she said, forcing a smile. "Thank you for your time. I'm sorry for bothering you." She turned and walked away, her heart heavy with disappointment. She had come so close, but she had failed. She had. Detective Reynolds, watching from across the street, saw Sarah walk away, her shoulders slumped in defeat. He knew that it was time to take action. He radioed his team, giving them the signal to move in. Within minutes, Marco was surrounded by police officers. They approached him cautiously, their guns drawn but holstered. "Marco," Reynolds said, his voice firm. "We need to ask you some questions. Please don't resist." Marco looked around, his eyes wide with panic. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice trembling. "What is this about?" "We're investigating the disappearance of a child," Reynolds said. "We believe you may have information that can help us." Marco shook his head vehemently. "I don't know anything about a missing child," he said. "I swear." "We have reason to believe otherwise," Reynolds said. "We need you to come with us to the station for questioning." Marco hesitated for a moment, then slowly nodded. "Okay," he said. "I'll come with you. But I didn't do anything wrong." The police officers handcuffed Marco and escorted him to a patrol car. A crowd began to gather, curious to see what was happening. The news spread quickly through the city's arts district. Marco, the beloved street artist, had been arrested. Sarah watched from a distance, her heart pounding in her chest. She saw the police officers take Marco away, and she felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of the end. Maybe Lily would finally be coming home. At the police station, Marco was taken to an interrogation room. Detective Reynolds and Detective Harding, who had flown in from Lily's hometown, sat across from him. They began to question him about his past, his travels, and his knowledge of the star symbol. Marco denied everything. He insisted that he had never seen Lily, that he had no idea how her drawing had ended up as a tattoo on his arm. He claimed that he had found the design in a book of symbols and had simply liked the way it looked. Detectives Harding and Reynolds pressed him relentlessly, presenting him with the evidence they had gathered, pointing out the inconsistencies in his story. They showed him Lily's drawing, reminding him of the little girl who was still missing, pleading with him to tell them the truth. Hours passed, and Marco remained steadfast in his denial. The detectives were starting to lose hope. They knew that they needed a confession, but Marco was a tough nut to crack. Then, Detective Harding changed tactics. He stopped yelling and started talking to Marco in a calm, compassionate voice. He told him about Lily's parents, about their heartbreak and their unwavering hope. He told him about the community that was still searching for her, about the missing posters that were still hanging in the park. He showed Marco pictures of Lily, her smiling face and bright eyes. He told him about her love of drawing, about her imagination, about her dreams. He appealed to Marco's humanity, reminding him that he had the power to end this nightmare, to bring Lily home. Something shifted in Marco's eyes. He began to fidget, his hands trembling. He looked down at the table, avoiding the detective's gaze. He stammered, his voice barely audible. "I didn't mean to hurt her." The detectives leaned forward, their hearts pounding. "What do you mean?" Harding asked, his voice gentle. Marco took a deep breath, tears welling up in his eyes. "I took her," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I took her from the park." The detectives exchanged a look of shock and disbelief. They had finally broken through. "Where is she, Marco?" Harding asked, his voice urgent. "Where is Lily?" Marco began to sob, his body shaking uncontrollably. She's at my apartment," he said. "In a hidden room." He explained that he had been watching Lily in the park for weeks, drawn to her innocence and her imagination. He had become obsessed with her, convinced that she needed to be protected, that he could give her a better life. He had kidnapped her and kept her hidden in a secret room in his apartment, providing her with food, clothing, and toys. He had never harmed her, he insisted, but he knew that what he had done was wrong. The detectives listened in stunned silence, their minds racing. They had to act quickly. Lily's life depended on it. The confession they had worked so hard to get had opened the door to her rescue. A wave of adrenaline surged through Detectives Harding and Reynolds. They immediately assembled a team of officers and raced to Marco's apartment. The air was thick with tension as they surrounded the building, securing the perimeter. They stormed into the apartment, guns drawn, shouting Marco's name. The apartment was small and cluttered, filled with art supplies and half-finished paintings. They searched every room, but there was no sign of Lily. Then, they found it, a small door hidden behind a bookshelf in the living room. It was cleverly concealed, almost invisible to the naked eye. They forced the door open and found a narrow staircase leading down into a dark, musty room. The detectives descended cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The room was small and sparsely furnished, but it was clear that someone had been living there. There was a bed, a small table, and a pile of toys in the corner. And then they saw her. Lily was sitting on the bed, clutching a stuffed animal, her eyes wide with fear. She looked small and frail, but she was alive. "Lily?" Harding said, his voice gentle. "It's okay. We're here to help you." Lily looked up at him, her eyes filled with confusion. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "We're police officers," Harding said. "We're here to take you home to your mommy and daddy." Lily's eyes widened. "Mommy? Daddy?" she said, a glimmer of recognition in her voice. Harding approached her slowly, extending his hand. "Come on, sweetheart," he said. "Let's get you out of here." Lily hesitated for a moment, then reached out and took his hand. Harding lifted her into his arms, and they carried her out of the hidden room. As they emerged from the apartment building, a crowd erupted in cheers. Sarah, who had been waiting anxiously nearby, rushed forward, tears streaming down her face. "Lily," she cried, reaching for her daughter. "Oh, Lily." Harding gently handed Lily to Sarah, and the two embraced in a tearful reunion. The months of fear and uncertainty had finally come to an end. Lily was home. The rescue operation had been a success. Thanks to Sarah's quick thinking and the tireless efforts of the police, Lily had been found safe and sound. But the ordeal was far from over. Marco still had to face justice for his crimes. And Lily had a long road ahead of her, a journey of healing and recovery. Sarah held Lily tight, burying her face in her daughter's hair, inhaling her familiar scent. "My baby," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You're home. You're really home." Lily clung to her mother, her small body trembling. "Mommy," she said, her voice muffled. "I was scared." "I know, sweetheart," Sarah said, stroking her hair. "But you're safe now. You're with me." Tom, who had flown in from Lily's hometown as soon as he heard the news, pushed through the crowd, his face etched with relief and joy. He knelt down beside Sarah and Lily, his eyes filling with tears. "Lily," he said, reaching out to touch her face. "My sweet girl. You're back." Lily looked at her father, a glimmer of recognition in her eyes. "Daddy," she said, her voice hesitant. Tom wrapped his arms around Sarah and Lily, holding them close. "We're all together now," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "We're never going to let you go again." The reunion was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. The months of fear, uncertainty, and despair had finally come to an end. Lily was home, safe in the arms of her loving parents. The crowd that had gathered outside Marco's apartment cheered and applauded, their hearts filled with relief and gratitude. They had all been touched by Lily's story, and they were overjoyed to see her finally reunited with her family. The police officers, who had worked so tirelessly to bring Lily home, Marco's arrest and confession sent shockwaves through both Oakhaven and Lily's hometown. The news media descended, eager to report on the incredible story of a missing child found hundreds of miles away thanks to a tourist's keen eye and a distinctive tattoo. Marco was charged with kidnapping and unlawful imprisonment. His trial was a media circus, with reporters from around the world flocking to Oakhaven to cover the proceedings. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence against him, including his confession, Lily's testimony, and the tattoo of the star symbol. Marco's defense attorney argued that he was mentally ill, that he had not intended to harm Lily, and that he had simply wanted to protect her. But the jury didn't buy it. They found him guilty on all counts, and he was sentenced to a long prison term. For Lily, the road to recovery was long and difficult. She had been traumatized by her experience, and she struggled to adjust to life back home. She had nightmares, flashbacks, and difficulty trusting strangers. Sarah and Tom were patient and supportive, providing her with the love and care she needed to heal. They enrolled her in therapy, where she learned to cope with her trauma and to express her emotions. Slowly but surely, Lily began to recover. She started drawing again, her artwork becoming more colorful and expressive. She made new friends, and she started enjoying life again. It took time, but Lily eventually overcame her trauma and emerged stronger than ever. She became an advocate for missing children, sharing her story to raise awareness and to inspire hope. Sarah and Tom, too, found healing in helping others. They established a foundation to support families of missing children, providing them with resources, counseling, and advocacy. The story of Lily's disappearance and rescue became a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of perseverance, and a reminder that even the coldest cases can be solved with a little bit of luck and a lot of determination. It also served as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance and the impact that one person can have on the lives of others. Sarah, hailed as a hero by the media and her community, remained humble, deflecting praise and emphasizing that she had simply done what any mother would have done. She became an advocate for vigilance, urging people to pay attention to their surroundings and to trust their instincts. "You never know when you might see something that could make a difference," she said in an interview. "Even the smallest detail can be a clue, a key to unlocking a mystery. We all have a responsibility to look out for each other, to protect our children, and to never give up hope." Her story became an inspiration to others, a reminder that one person can make a difference, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. She showed the world that even in the darkest of times, hope can prevail, and that even the coldest cases can be solved with a little bit of luck, a lot of determination, and the unwavering love of a mother. Detective Harding, reflecting on the case, said, "Sarah's quick thinking and her attention to detail were instrumental in bringing Lily home. She is a true hero, and we are all grateful for her courage and her unwavering commitment." The case of the missing child and the street artist's tattoo became a legend, a story told and retold, a reminder of the power of hope, the importance of vigilance, and the impact that one person can have on the lives of others. And Lily's star, once a symbol of loss and despair, became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of a mother's love. The community erected a statue in the park where Lily disappeared, a statue of a little girl drawing a star, a symbol of hope for all missing children and a tribute to the woman who never gave up on finding her daughter. It served as a lasting reminder that even in the face of darkness, a single spark of hope can light the way home.